So, welcome to a new Shakespeare episode. So, there was a big reveal at Nova. Shakespeare is getting a new box set, a new starter box, and it's no longer called Shakespeare. Let's just refer to it as Warhammer Underworlds. I'll probably call it Shakespeare 150 times throughout this episode by accident, but I'll try to call it Warhammer Underworlds from now on. Slightly new setting, new box. We were not very surprised that came out new box. We kind of knew that already. So what are the new information in it? Well, the 2 warbands included. We kind of knew that the Nighthorns would be one faction. They're called the Chain Rats, and I am extremely excited about that. I have been waiting for some kind of Nighthorns ever since the game released, so finally I get to play them. That's awesome. Second band, or warband, is another Sigmarine warband. Not the best choice in my opinion. We already had 2 Sigmarine warbands out there. There's still not a single elfish warband. I think they could have gone with a better choice, but hey, they are the Space Marines of Age of Sigmar, so there will be a lot of them, so yeah, it's the main line. So, and probably throughout this second season there will be more interesting warbands out there, so it's all okay. And probably they will be playing somewhat differently than the other Sigmarine warbands, so that's all good. And also a completely new game mechanic. That's awesome. Magic gets included in the realm of Warhammer Underworlds. That's gonna be very interesting. Hopefully it's gonna be balanced with everything else. And not just you need to play a magic wielding warband, but yeah, also everything is compatible with every earlier release for Warhammer Underworlds, so you can continue to play your Magor's Fiends or your Fire Slayers or whatever tickles your fancy from Season 1, and now you can upgrade your deck with new cards from Season 2. And still use some of the cards from Season 1. So that's good. I very much expected the Season 2 to be completely compatible with Season 1. Everything else would have been a horrible mistake by Games Workshop, so that is very, very good. Also, new game boards, new cards, basically following the release model of Season 1 to the letter. So, starter box gets a bunch of neutral cards and some specific cards for the 2 warbands, and then we will see, I think, they haven't been official, but it seems pretty much like we will get separate warbands releases just like Season 1, and maybe down the line an extra game board, which will be ridiculously overpriced at £15, and so on and so forth. So, what has this response been like? In the first 24 hours after the reveal, the responses that I had been able to find online has been limited, very limited. I think within the first almost a day after the big reveal, there were only like 20 responses on the official Facebook page for Warhammer Underworlds. That was very underwhelming. Of course, the Shakespeare community does have a lot more local pages on Facebook, and trawling those there were few more responses in the local ones than there were in the official Facebook page, but still it was a limited response. maybe because of there's been kind of a gap in the hype for Shadespire. Kill Team has taken up a lot of the Games Workshop hype, so it hasn't really, the new Warhammer Underworlds release has not been thoroughly hyped yet. It probably will be, so the Shadespire hype will probably rise again. So that will probably turn out fairly good as well. But it does seem like there is a slight decline in the enthusiasm for Warhammer Underworlds. But the enthusiasm was very, very high during the height of Season 1, so of course it will ebb and flow like everything else. Now, one of the reasons why I think it might be decreasing the interest in Shadespire is due to the price. I've added up the prices for Season 1. If you want to play competitively in Shadespire, and it is marketed as a competitive game, you need to buy everything. And Season 1, the essentials of Season 1 without buying any of the luxuries like card sleeves and dice and stuff like that, runs at £170. That's actually quite a lot of money. The new box set will probably be priced the same as the original Warhammer Shadespire box set, so they'll be £40, which means that a new player entering at the beginning of Season 2 will have to drop £210 just to enter the game. And that is quite a lot of money. And Season 2 is likely to rack up a similar price tag as to Season 1, which means by the end of Season 2 you're looking at a whooping £340 just to enter the hobby. Now, if you've been playing from the very beginning, you have been paying these money piecemeal, it still adds up to about £15 a month since the game released. That's quite a lot of money on the hobby budget. If Shadespire is your only game, that is that's fairly okay. £15 a month for a hobby budget, that's pretty good. But it's very likely that you're also playing Warhammer 40k or Age of Sigmar and something like that, and then Shadespire all of a sudden takes a big chunk out of your hobby budget. I mean, Season 1, £170, I could probably get somewhere between 1,000 and 1,500 point 40k army for that. Which means by the end of Season 2 I could have a pretty impressive 40k army for the amount of money that I've invested in Shadespire. And the 40k army is gonna be usable throughout the ages, whereas Shadespire, I will need to keep pumping money into that to keep it up to date. So I think that the present business model of Shadespire is going to slowly kill the game. It is getting way too expensive already now for new players to start buying into the game, which means we are going to see very soon a complete stop for new players into the Shadespire game, and slowly, one by one, the older players will drop out. They might get a bit behind on releases, and then suddenly the price tag to get up to date for Shadespire is getting pretty high, and they might also need to upgrade their 40k army, or they wanted to start that other army, and maybe getting into Age of Sigmar might be a good idea. But if you want to stay up to date with Shadespire or Warhammer Underworlds, that chunk of your hobby budget is just not gonna make the other things feasible. So I think the business model of needing to buy each and every release for Shadespire is going to kill the game in the end. And hopefully, if everything works out the way we want it, then Shadespire should continue to season 3, 4, 5, 6, down the line. But if you still need to buy each and everything, that's gonna get way too costly, and it is not feasible for the game to survive in that state. Now, what I think Games Workshop should have done, and they still could kind of bring it around to that way, is if they at the beginning here of Season 2 released a pack of all the neutral cards from all the Warband releases of Season 1. Say that box could cost around £20–25. That would be fairly reasonable. That meant that starting at Season 2, what you would need, you still need to buy the box set of Season 1, and then you would need all the neutral cards from Season 1, the box set for Season 2, and whichever warband you might want to play, if you don't want to play one of those included in the boxes. That would bring the price down a lot to start playing. And for Season 2, the box set should contain all the neutral cards that will be released in Season 2. And then each warband release should only have warband specific cards with them. That way you could probably buy the complete Season 1, including that extra board that was overpriced, and the leader card box, and all the cards from Season 1 for about £100. Season 2 would be about £40 for the box set, which would give you all of the neutral cards, the board games, then or the game boards. Then maybe there would be some extra must-haves like additional game boards and stuff like that. That would be maybe another £25. And then you need to buy any warband that you would want to play that isn't included in the box. Which means that each season, after the first season, would still cost you around £100 because it's already been released and we can't do that much about it without completely pissing off people who have bought things from the beginning. So that would cost, the buy-in for Season 1 would be around £100. Season 2 would be maybe £60. So the buy-in for each season would be less than £50. Ideally, you would need to be able to buy into the game at any point in time to start playing and have everything you need to play one of the basic warbands included in the boxes. Should be less than £100. Buy into a game for more than £100, that is way too expensive. So later on, you'll probably need to make a bundle of all the game boards from each and every season in one box, say £50 for that. If you're buying in at Season 4, you don't want to buy the box sets for each and every season, so you'd need to be able to buy a bundle of all the game boards that were released, say £50 for that. Then you would need all the neutral cards from each season, say they're costing £25 a season for that. And then you'll need to buy a warband. That would probably, come Season 4 or something like that, bring you way above the £100, but not £1,000 or something like that. You would just buy it for, say, £150 or something like that, and then you buy all the seasons. And you might actually be able to skip some of the neutral cards from one of the seasons or something like that, depending on what you want to play. That is what I think Games Workshop should have done. That is, they would still slightly annoy people who have been buying in from the beginning to have like cheaper bundles where they could buy everything they needed at the end of the season, but you would only piss them off once. This way, that is now, everybody is gonna just keep looking at the game, and every time they take a look at the game it's getting more and more expensive. And they're looking at all the money they already sunk into the game, which makes it a tough decision to drop out. So that they're sinking even more money into it, and they're just getting more and more annoyed with the cost racking up for this game. That is actually a really good game. Games Workshop is just way, way, way too expensive. Especially for what it is. Now, what can we do as players to keep the game alive and keep playing without ruining ourselves? Well, the first thing that you could do to keep playing Shadespire or Warhammer Underworlds is to win the lottery repeatedly, like once a year or something like that, because the cost is going to rack up. That's probably not going to be very feasible because even though you can afford it, your friends might not. And you do need opponents to play Shadespire. It's only really an interesting game if there's a community with a bunch of players playing it, so you don't have to play the same friend over and over and over again. So what we could do is accept proxy cards. Now, I can go on the interwebs and I can print out a copy of any card that I would need for my deck. And I could play with that. I know that Games Workshop tournaments will never accept that. But for friendly games, you could do that, so you could keep playing at home. And for non-Games Workshop run tourneys, they could look through the fingers with proxy cards, or not notice that they were proxy cards. That way people would still be able to play without sinking each and every dime they make into this particular game. If you want to participate in a official tournament, what you could do is jump through the hoops. Design your deck online. Look at the deck, see which expansions are needed for that particular deck, then modify that deck so that if you say, well, I want this card, but it's the only card that I need from that expansion, maybe I can find a card that does almost the same thing in a different expansion and use that instead. Which would, of course, make your deck slightly less powerful, but it would limit the cost somewhat. Maybe you would only need a couple of expansions on top of the box games to create your deck. Another way is, of course, eBay. Buy specific cards on eBay. Personally, I really don't like that. First of all, well, Games Workshop is not making any money from that, so Games Workshop shouldn't be interested in us buying individual cards on eBay or any other electronic marketplace out there. Also, yeah, I don't like the thought of somebody buying card packs, ripping them open and just selling them, the cards individually, and making a profit of it. Like that. That's it just seems wrong and rubs me the wrong way. But that is where the game is heading, if it doesn't die out completely, is that we will need to buy the specific cards one by one, which takes a lot of time, actually. Shopping around, finding the cards and trying to find a reasonable price for them and stuff like that. And, well, dear Games Workshop and all branches of Games Workshop, the whole concept of microtransactions, of cut content and pay to win are toxic business models. It ruins games in the digital world, and it gets even worse when you're applying the same concepts to physical games like Warhammer Underworlds and some of your other releases as well. In the end, because I have to buy things single-hand from second-hand sellers and stuff, I will be spending more hobby time finding a good price and balancing my budget than I will be using painting and actually gaming. So what you're doing is you are making accountancy my primary hobby. I don't like accountancy, that's why my economy is in shambles, I know that, but you are making accountancy into my main hobby, and I am not going to like you for that. So please, Games Workshop, make your games accessible, make your games affordable. I'm still gonna spend the same amount of money on your company. The only difference is, am I going to spend it all on my 40k army, or am I going to spend some of that on something else as well, such as Warhammer Underworlds. But I'd actually like to be able to buy into most of your games, not just one. And the whole concept of Games Workshop is actually supplying all my hobby needs. All the kinds of miniature wargaming that I want to do, I can do that with one company. That is awesome. It really is. It is awesome. It's a great business model. But if I can't afford it, I can only afford to play one of them, maybe I'll have to go look at some other companies and see if I can play their games instead, because they are cheaper. Way cheaper. So, Games Workshop, stop trying to milk the cow for more milk than it's worth, and let us be able to afford your brilliant hobby. That's it for now, and thank you, and bye bye.